Welcome, everyone. In this session, we're going to look at the management accounting techniques. This is one of the level 3 paper and with the AATQ22. So that's our new syllabus. And this paper we used to call management accounting costing. So with the QA16, with the old syllabus, we call this paper management accounting costing. But with the new syllabus, we called it management accounting techniques. Now, there are slightly changes with the new paper. Before, the management accounting costing was solely only the costing, but now for the techniques one, they introduce the spreadsheet or the Excel as a part of the management accounting technique paper. So in this paper, we're not going to only learn the costing technique. Also, we have to implement our Excel technique or Excel skill to complete the paper. And also we need to know how to use the Excel in preparing the budget. So the last two questions, question number 5 and 6 will be from our Excel. And we're going to look at the question from this AAT website, and we're going to practice a few questions together to improve our skill and to improve our score in the exam. Let's read a little bit the background information. More or less, the background information is same for every single AAT exam, except the number of tasks that we're going to look at in the exam and the number of question and the time duration. Other than most of the information is more or less same. For example, for this exam, we are looking at 2.5 hours. So 2.5 hours will be the exam, and we're expecting 6 questions in the exam, 6 tasks. And question number 5 and the 6 will be based on the Excel. Now, when I said it will be based on the Excel, it will be the management technique question, but we have to present it on the Excel. And that means, for example, if we need to prepare the flex budget, we have to do it on the Excel. If we need to do the apportionment, we need to do on the Excel. So we really don't have to be too much good on Excel, but the basic understanding need to be clear. For example, how to use the sum function or if function, or for example, how to use the VLOOKUP or pivot table, or how to prepare the pivot table with the chart. So this sort of thing will be on the exams. It's not going to be too much difficult, but we need to know the basic stuff. All right, so once we are happy with that page, the assessment information, we will say we can start our session. So once we start our session, we will see the time will be start running. So you can see here, 2 hours 30 minutes will be start counting our time. And also once we finish the exam, we'll be able to submit the assessment. Now, if you haven't done any exam before with the AQA22 syllabus, with the new PSI bridge software we use, so that will be a little bit different. So you need to be a little bit careful. With the AQA16 syllabus, normally the invigilator, he will give you a code. And this code you have to enter on the AAT secure client or on the software. You have to enter a code, and once you enter the code, you see your detail, and if you're happy with the detail, you just say confirm, and then someone from the admin team, they will unlock your exam and the exam will be started. Before, with the AAT level 3 exam, the exam result was published immediately. So after half an hour or maximum a day, you get the result. But with the new syllabus, level 3, you're not going to get the result straight away. It might take up to 15 days, but normally it takes 7 to 8 days to get the result. So that means we're not going to get the result immediately for level 3 paper anymore. So we need to wait. And also with the PSI bridge, with the new software, you really don't need any code or anything from the invigilator, because the exam will be set up automatically, and you're going to receive a link on your email. So when you book an exam, you're going to receive a link on your email, and you have to set up a password by using that email. Remember that this password is only for the exam. It's not the password which one you use to log into your My AAT account. So it's not the same password. This is a completely different password, and this password you only going to use it for your AAT exam, and you have to do just once. So when you first time book the exam, only that time you have to set up your password. So AAT will send you a link on your email, and you have to open the link to set up a password. You have to write it down or you have to remember it, because every time you're going to log in for the exam, you need it. So once you set up that on the PSI Bridge software, you have to enter your membership number and this password. And what will happen, you're going to log in and you're going to see the exam is already set up there. And all you have to do, you have to double click on the exam name and it will show loading and waiting for the approval. And then someone from the admin team, they're going to unlock your exam. So it is a little bit different with the new system compared to the last exam you have done, maybe on your level 2. Anyway, let's move on to our question for the management accounting techniques. Let's have a look what we have here. So we start with the first question, and we can see on the right corner we have index. If we click here, we'll be able to look at all the tasks, task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we click again with the index, it will be invisible. So that's how we can see. If I like to jump from question number 1 to question number 5 or 6, I can click on the index and I can move from one question to another. Also, if I like to go to the next question, for example, if I start a question, for example, from here, and let's say if I start and just click here, and I will not be able to go to the next question. If you see, if I click next, it is not moving. So it will not go unless I click answer. So you need to be very careful. Once you've done one question, you have to confirm answer before you can move to the next question. If I click answer, it will take me automatically to the next question, question number 2. You can see that. So that's why it's very important you get used to with this format. And once you come back to the previous question, you have to click the edit in order to do the same question again. So you need to be a little bit careful, because this is not the template or format that we used to use for the previous AAT exam. All right, so let's start with our first question. It's a task 1 for 24 marks. This task is about costing techniques. This task contains part A to B. Identify which two of the following statements describe the purpose of costing. Now, what is the purpose of costing? Remember that the purpose of the costing is mainly to make a plan for the future. Now, when you look at the budgeting paper, this is our management paper. Management accountant only careful or prepare the budget for the future. So they don't prepare anything for the external purpose. For example, the management accountant, they don't prepare a report for the reporting purpose. For example, they don't give anything to HMRC, they don't give anything to shareholder, they don't give anything to the bank. So they don't prepare any report for anyone. Management only prepare all the report for internal purpose, and all the budget is basically prepared to make themselves ready for the future. So they said, identify which two of the following statements describe the purpose of costing. So producing financial statement for shareholder. So this job mainly done by the financial accountant, producing financial statement for shareholder. So the financial statement prepared for shareholder, and this job is done by the financial accountant, not by the management accountant. Remember that management accountant only prepare the management report only for the internal purpose. So it's not the right answer. Financial planning for future of a business. This could be the right answer, because financial planning or budgeting for the future, this is one of the purpose of the costing. So we need to say yes, financial planning for the future. So if we say what is budget, budget means something is planning for the future. So obviously management technique or management budgeting is all about the budget, all about the management. So if we make a plan for the future, this is the job of the management accountant. And this is one of the purpose of costing. The next thing is controlling the amount of expenditure incurred by the business. This is also important, and this is also true. If we make a plan, we should have a proper control on that. Now, for example, if we make a plan and if we don't have any control over it, so this plan unlikely will be successful. For that reason, if we have any plan, we need to make sure we have a proper control so that we can achieve our goal or we can make our plan successful. For that reason, we should have the control over it. So this is one of the reason or purpose of costing. Performing reconciliation to confirm the accuracy and existence of the asset. No, this is not the management job. So this is basically the job by the auditor. Normally they confirm the accuracy and the existence of the asset. All right, let's move to the next one. The next one we have here, identify whether the following is statement about the budgeting are true or false. The first statement we have, a budget is a financial plan which is prepared in advance. This is absolutely true. Budget is a financial plan which is prepared in advance. For example, if we are planning to go for a holiday, and we need to know how much you're going to spend for the accommodation, how much for the travel, how much for the food. So all the planning we make in advance, this is called budget. So budget is a financial plan, and that we prepare in advance. That's absolutely true. A budget always cover a time period of 12 months. This is not true. The budget could be for a quarter, budget could be for a year, budget could be for 5 years. It depends on the organization requirement. So budget always don't have to be 12 months. So this is not true. The next question we have here is about the costing method. Now the costing method is a little bit tricky. So let's explain a little bit. So you have a different type of costing method. For example, we have a job costing, and we have a batch costing, we have a service costing, and we have a standard costing or unit costing. So we have a lot of costing method. Now the question is, which one is appropriate for what service or what product? Now the job costing is all about specific job. If the costing is relevant to one specific job, then we're going to use the job costing. For example, if a company asks you, they need a software, and they need a bespoke software, or they need a very precise software, and this software only be used for their company. Maybe this software is not suitable for any other company at all. So based on their requirement, you're going to prepare a software. So they said, we need this, we need this, we need this. And based on their specification or the requirement, you give a price, and this is basically the job costing. Or for example, someone need to build a house, and they want their house with a different sort of requirement. They need a different corridor, that they need a different tiles, they need a different garden. So basically, based on the requirement, you give a price. So when the costing method is used for only a specific reason or for a specific requirement, then we use the job costing, because it's not going to be same for everyone. So for example, if someone said like, I need this specification on my product, so that means you're not going to make a lot, you just make only one for one person. So if this is the case, we use job costing. The next one is standard or the batch costing. The batch costing is all about when you make so many product or identical product at the same time. For example, if we sell a pen, or if we make a, for example, calculator, or if we make some cups, or if we make some computer. So all this product, we don't just make only one, we make a lot at the same time. For example, we make 10,000 pen, we make 10,000 paper, we make 10,000, for example, stationery. So you make a lot at the same time. So when you make an identical item a lot at the same time, we called it batch costing. On the other hand, we have a unit costing. So when we have a something that is the comprise of a standard unit, we use the standard unit costing. For example, if we say like this unit costs £2 and the next unit costs £2, next unit costs £2, so all the unit basically cost £2. So in this case, we use the unit costing. And the service costing we use normally when we provide the services, not the product. So service costing is all about where we're getting the service, but not any physical product. For example, we go for a haircut, or we go for a accountancy services, we go for a legal services. So all the services we receive, actually we don't receive anything physical. So when we provide something that is not physical, and that sort of costing is relevant to service costing. So we have a few things here. The first one, you have a bespoke wedding service. So if we have a bespoke wedding service, that is especially for one wedding, and that is very much like unique, and it is not going to be like too much or like too many at the same time. So it's only for one job, so we use the job costing because it's a bespoke. Bespoke means based on someone requirement, based on someone specification. So I'm not going to do the same thing twice. It's just once. The next one, we have a standard cream tea. So this one will be our unit costing, because standard cream teas will be all unit will have the same cost. The room hire, I'm not going to get anything physical. If I hire a room, I'm going to stay on that room. So it is a service. So it will be service costing. All right, let's move to the next question then. The next question we have here, for complete the cost card below for the batch of daisy jacket. So let's look at this question. All right, it says in current production is a batch of 800 daisy jacket. So one batch, 800 jacket. So in one batch, we make 800 daisy jackets. The cost of the batch has been estimated as follows. Direct material, designer cloth 1200 meter and 6.5 per meter. So we need to multiply to find it out how much is the designer cloth value. Lining, we have 1000 meter and £2.70 per meter. So you have to multiply with that to find it out how much is the linen cost. The next one, you have a direct labor. Carter are paid £10 per hour. So the basic wages is £10 per hour with additional 50% for an overtime. Overtime is classified as a direct cost. So all the overtime will classify as a direct cost. Remember that if we have a job costing, the overtime will be always classified as a direct cost. To produce the batch will require 600 basic hours. We need 600 basic hour and 100 overtime. That's fine. And the overtime rate is 50% extra. That is times and half. So it will be 10 plus 5, so 15 per hour. Okay. Then you have a sewer are outsourced by Deborah's Limited and paid 23 per jacket. So per jacket, we have 800 jacket. Need to multiply by 23 to find it out how much is the sewer cost. Variable production overhead 8 per direct labor hour. So we have a 700 hours, 600 plus 100 for 700 hours. And they said 8 per direct labor hour. So we need to multiply by 8 to find it out how much is the variable overhead. Fixed overhead is fixed anyway. So let's try to do it. The first one, we do our designer cloth. That is 1200 meter and 6.5 per meter. So 1200 times 6.5, and that gives me 7800. 7800. The lining, we have 1000 meter and 2.7. So it's to look like 2,700. So 1,000 times 2.7, 2,700. And if we added these two, the total direct material will be 10,500. The next one, we have a direct labor. So we have a cutter. So the direct labor we have 600 hour times by 10. So 600 times by 10, it gives me 6,000. And 100 hours will be multiplied by 15. Why 15? Because it is 50% extra. So 10 times 1.5, that will be 15. So 100 times 15, that will give me 1,500 overtime. So basic plus overtime total will be 7,500. So 7,500 is the total for cutter. For the sewer, we said 23 per jacket. So we have 800 jacket times 23 per jacket. So 800 times 23, and that will be 18,400. So 18,400. And if we added this to 18,400 plus 7,500, that will give us 25,900. All right, the next one, we have a variable production overhead. They said 8 per direct labor hour. So I have a total 700 hours. So 700 times 8, 5,600. So 5,600. That's my variable production overhead. All right. Now total estimated absorption cost. Let's have a look. How much is the total estimated absorption cost? We have a direct material 10,005, direct labor 25,900, plus variable overhead 5,600 plus 18,000. And that will give us total 10,005 plus 25,900 plus 56 plus 18. That gives me 60,000. So this is my total estimated absorption cost per batch. Don't be confused this word per batch. Do not divide by 800. Remember that 800 jacket is one batch. So do not do that like per batch means 60,000. I have to divide with 800. No, 800 is one batch. So per batch means is one batch. And in one batch, we make 800 jacket. Very careful with that. All right, let's move to the next one. The next question we have here, identify the correct journals entry for the transferring the cost of direct labor for cutter to production for the batch. Remember that when you transferring the cost of direct labor or direct material to the production, so the direct labor will be our expense and it is a direct cost. So direct cost or expense will be always debit. So we have a basic wages, it's a direct cost, it will be debit. Overtime will be also direct cost because the question said overtime is a part of direct cost. That's why we have to say it's also direct cost and it is also debit. And remember that all the wages always transfer to the wages control account. So if something is debit, wages control account need to be credit. So every single wages we have at the end, it will go to wages control. So wages control will be credit. All right, the next one we have here, calculate the estimated prime cost per batch. Prime cost means only the direct cost. Only the direct cost. Prime cost means only the direct cost. So how many direct costs do we have here? We have a direct labor, direct material, and direct labor. This two is our direct cost. If you remember from the last question, the direct material and the direct labor, this two is our direct cost. So if we added this two, that will give us 36,400. 36,400. This is our prime cost. As soon as you see the question, they're asking for the prime cost. That means it's only the direct cost. The next one, it says, calculate the estimated total marginal cost. Marginal cost means only the variable cost. Only the variable cost. Marginal cost means only the variable cost. So we have a direct material, then we have a direct labor, and we have a variable overhead that is 5,600. So this three is the variable cost. If we added this three, that is 36,400 plus 5,600, that will be 42,000. The next one is asking, Delimited will sell the Daisy jacket for 250 each. So selling price 250 each. Calculate the total revenue for Delimited will receive for the batch of Daisy jacket. So if you remember, one batch we had 800 jacket. So 800 jacket and per jacket is 250. So 800 times 250. So 800 times 250, that gives me 200,000. So my sales revenue will be 200,000. That's for the total revenue. Next one, it says calculate the estimated profit for each Daisy jacket, each per Daisy jacket, each. So let's find it out. How much is the total profit? So my total revenue is 200,000. From the revenue, I have to take out all the cost. So if I take out all the cost, I have a marginal cost that is 42,000. So minus 42,000. And we have a fixed cost 18,000. So if we do that, how much profit we have? 200,000 minus 42,000 minus 18,000. And this gives me 140,000, the total profit. And we have total 800 jacket. If we divide by 800, that gives me 175 profit per jacket. So the estimated profit per jacket, 175. All right, this question is not very difficult. Let's move to our next question. And let's have a look if we can do it together. So this question we have, task 2 for 24 marks. This question is from the apportionment and allocation and reapportionment. This question is a very common in the exam, so you need to make sure you revise well and you make yourself ready for this question. This task is about attributing cost. This task contains part A to B. Identify whether the following statement about the activity-based costing are true or false. Cost drivers are used to determine the cause of the cost. This is absolutely true. We use the cost driver that drive the cost. For example, if we said like we have a overhead and which basis we're going to use it. So we have a different cost driver. For example, we have a basis of apportionment. Let's say if we have a rent and rates, we use the floor area. For example, for the heat and lighting, we use the floor area. For the canteen cost, we use the number of employee or number of meals. For the cost of the machine, we use the net book value or for the depreciation. So this sort of thing is basically very important to understand. So cost driver we use to determine the cause of the cost, why the cost is happening. For example, let's say there is an inspection cost or there is a quality control cost. So why the cost is happening is depends how many inspection we done. So if we do more inspection, that means the cost will be more. If we do less inspection or less quality check, our cost will be less. So this is the cause that determine the cost. The next one is says overhead are charged to production on the basis of a direct labor hour or machine hour. This is not necessary. Normally, the overhead are charged based on the direct machine hour or labor hour, but it is not mandatory. It always has to be like that. Overhead can be charged based on the number of unit as well. So it's not necessary always the overhead has to be charged based on the direct labor hour or machine hour. No. Normally we use that, but it is not mandatory. It's not has to be. The next one we have complete the following statement. Under absorb overhead are debit or credit to the profit and loss account or the bank account. Now let's try to understand what is under absorb or over absorb. Now this is all about the overhead. Now this overhead, I make a plan or I make a budget. So I said next year my overhead will be 5,000 or next quarter my overhead will be 5,000. So this is my overhead absorbed. This is my overhead absorbed. So I said, based on my overhead absorption rate, that is OAR, based on my overhead absorption rate, my overhead absorbed is 5,000 for the next quarter. But when I say actual overhead, let's say 6,000. So I absorb 5,000 on my plan, on my budget, but actual overhead is 6,000. So that means there is an under absorb of 1,000. Under absorb 1,000. That means I absorb 1,000 less. I absorb 1,000 less. So if I absorb 1,000 less, what does that mean? I show less expense. Overhead is expense. So I have shown less expense on my profit and loss account. So on my P&L account, I have shown less expense because I absorb less. So if I show less expense, that means my profit is higher on the profit and loss account. So for that reason, there will be impact on the profit and loss account. Remember that. So under absorb or over absorb will have impact on our profit and loss account. Now, if I have a here under absorb, that means it will be debited to my statement and profit and loss account. Why? Because debit is expense for me. If I under absorb, I need to increase my expense because I show less. So I need to increase this 1,000. I need to debit 1,000 so that my overhead will be increased because actual is more than I absorb. So this one is very much tricky. You need to be careful with that. Under absorb and over absorb, it could be thinking the opposite way. For example, if you think you absorb 5 and actually 6, that means it's over absorb. Actually is more. No, it's not like that. If the actual is more than the overhead absorb, doesn't mean it is over absorb, but it is mean under absorb because I absorb less than the actual. And if I under absorb, that means I show less expense and I have to increase the expense. How? To make it debit on the profit and loss account because debit is expense. All right, so let's move to the next one. Make sure you practice under and over absorb because it is very common in the exam. The next question we have from the apportionment. So let's read this question. SG Limited is a manufacturer of window and doors. So there is a company, they make window and doors. It has two cost center. windows and doors, and one service center, that is admin. We know already any service center cost, that is admin, later on has to be apportioned back or reapportioned back to the window and the door, because the service center, they don't have any income. For example, if you sell microwave and there is a warranty for that, or you sell in a Argos or in a store, now the place you sold it, they don't have an income. The store don't have an income. The store just provide the services to the customer, but actual money coming from by selling the microwave. So for that reason, all the necessary cost, even that is admin or for the warranty or for the repair and maintenance, any cost that has to be covered by selling this microwave. So all this cost I have to make the window and the doors, and also any cost I have admin, this cost I need to add it either in the window or in the doors, because the admin department, they don't have an income. So their expense basically will be reapportioned back to the production center. All right. Budgeted overhead for the year. So we have overhead. This is all the overhead. So we have a supervisor salary window. So we know this salary belongs to window, so we can allocate it. If I exactly know where this cost will go, is called allocation. Supervisor salary doors is also allocation. Receptionist salary, I don't know, because it may be for both window and door, so we need to apportion it. So apportionment, if we don't know it, we have to apportion it. Admin salary, we need the apportionment. Rent and rates, we need the apportionment. Equipment depreciation, apportionment. So all of these things we need to apportion, except the first two, that is allocation. The following information is also available, okay? Windows, door, and admin. Floor area, square meter, 240, 150, 110. Carrying amount of equipment, 18,000, 24,750, 2250. Use of receptionist time, 75% for window, 25% for the door. Budgeted labor hour, 8,700 for window, for the door 5,100. Budgeted machine hour, 4,650 for window, and for door 5,430. The admin department overhead are reapportioned to the cost center as follow. So when we have the total admin department overhead, we need to reapportion back to window and the door. 60% of the admin will go to window, 40% of the admin will go to the door. All right, the story is more or less clear for us. Now we're going to look at the question and we start doing it together. All right, so this question, we have to be a little bit careful, because if we made a mistake once, the next one will be also a mistake. So when you do apportionment question or any budgeting question, you have to be very much careful with your calculation. The first thing you have to remember, if there is a negative figure, we have to use the minus sign. Use minus sign to indicate any negative figure. And you have to make it nearest whole pound. So you're not going to put the pence. So you need to make sure you read the question very carefully. All right, the first one we have supervisor salary is allocated. We already know that salary belongs to window, salary belongs to door. It is already given. We have to do anything. Receptionist salary. So it is the basis will be receptionist time. So the receptionist time we have here 75% we have that is belongs to window, and 25% that is belongs to our door. So I need to find it out how much is our total receptionist salary, and we have to give 75% to the window and 25% to the door. So our total is 18,000, the receptionist salary that we have seen on the top. Now 18,000 times 75%, that goes to the window. So 13,500. And the rest of the 4,500 will goes to the door. Then we have the admin salary. The admin salary, again, we have to use the basis of allocated is already given. So we just say allocated. It's already given. Admin salary belongs to admin. We don't have to apportion it. Remember that we only apportion it when the same overhead belongs to a different department. If one overhead belongs to only one department, we don't have to do anything. But if the overhead belongs to different department, then you have to apportion it. For example, the rent belongs to all the three departments, then you have to split the rent. But if I know this salary belongs to only this department, I don't have to split anything. All right, the next one we have rent and rates. So this one is based on the floor area. The rent and rates total 65,000. It is on the top, and the floor area we have 240 plus 150 plus 110. So I need to find it how much it is. 240 plus 150 plus 110. That gives me 500. So this 65,000, I'm going to use the floor area. So 240 for window, 150 for door, and 110 for admin. So let's do that. So 65,000 divide by 500 times by 240. And that will give me for the window. So 65,000 divide 500 times 240, that gives me 31,200. And the same way for the door, 65,000 divide 500 times by 150. That will give me 19,500. And the remaining 14,300 for the admin. All right, the next one we have equipment depreciation. The equipment depreciation, you're going to always use the carrying amount. So we're going to use the carrying amount of the equipment. It's already done. We don't have to do anything. Now we have to add this 158 plus 14,300 plus 750. And that will give me actually this amount. So if you need to little bit change that, if we just type it, you'll see that amount will be changed. So if we say 14,300, and it will give me 73,050. All right, so this 73,050, well, later on we need to, obviously I'm using the pen, you can type it, it's not a big deal, you need to just double click to type. So this 73,000, we need to reapportion now. When you reapportion, you have to use the minus sign. Let me show you. So minus 73,050, and it will be 0. Remember that. So in the bottom, it will be 0 total overhead. So I want to remove all the admin, so it will be 0, and I want to split it 60% to window and 40% to the door. So 73,050, the 60% will go to, that is 43,830 belongs to window, and 29,220 belongs to door. And that's it. That's how we're going to complete this question. Every single reapportion question, you have to move all the service cost center or admin cost to the production cost center later on. All right, let's move to the next one. Now the next question we have here is a little bit technical, so I need to know how to do this thing. We have the actual figure. So all this figure we have here, we have done, that's the budgeted. Now they give us the actual result. The actual result for the stable glazing for the year or window, we have 129.96, actual labor hour 8620, actual machine hour 4604. Then we have actual door labor hour 5430 and 5756. The next first question we have here, calculate the overhead absorption rate, OAR. OAR, overhead absorption rate. Overhead absorption rate means budgeted overhead, and the activity level. Budgeted overhead and the activity level. Now the budgeted overhead and activity level, we need to find it out from the question. Remember that this one, OAR, overhead absorption rate, is all about budgeted. So budgeted overhead and budgeted activity level. Now the activity level can be the machine hour or can be the labor hour, depends. If the question says the window use more machine hour than labor hour, then we understand this business is machine intensive, so window is machine intensive. If the question said no, the labor hour is more than the machine hour for the window, then we use the labor hour. So let's have a look at our question a little bit on the top, and let's have a look what is depends on. So we can see here for the windows, we have a labor hour 8700, and the machine hour we have 4650. So that means for the window I need more labor hours. So I understand this business is labor intensive. For the door, I can see I need 5100 labor hour, but I need 5430 machine hour. So you understand this business is machine intensive. Very careful with this question because we need to know, is this business with the machine or labor? If we need more machine, then we follow the machine. If we need more labor, then we follow the labor. So for the door, we follow the machine hour, and for the window, we follow the labor hour. So let's have a look. What is the overhead absorption rate for the window? So for the window, we have a total overhead, budgeted overhead 129. So 129,630. That's my total budgeted overhead. Remember, that is budgeted. And the budgeted hour, I'm going to take 8700 because labor hour is more than the machine. So I'm going to take the labor 8700. And that will give me OAR, overhead absorption rate. So 129,630 divide 8700. And that gives me 14.90. Same thing for our door. So 92,310 divide, I'm going to take for the door 5430. So 92,310 divide 5430. That gives me 17. And that's my OAR, overhead absorption rate. All right, so let's write it down on the answer box. The first one we have 14.90 OAR, overhead absorption rate. The next one is 17. For the door. The next one, it says calculate the overhead absorption for the window and door department. Enter your answer nearest whole pound. So this time I'm not going to put the decimal. Before they said 2 decimal, this time only whole pound. And they're asking to calculate the overhead absorbed. This time not overhead absorption rate, is overhead absorbed. Very careful with this question. So overhead absorbed means OAR, overhead absorption rate, that is for the window, for example, 14.90. So we said OAR times actual activity. Now for the window, my OAR was 14.90, and the actual activity means either the labor hour or either the machine hour. If you remember, for the window, we have used our labor hour. So actual labor hour is 8620, and that will tell me how much is the overhead absorbed for the window. 14.90 times 8620, and that gives me 128,438. 128,438. And for the doors, same thing. So 17 times, for the door, we use the machine hour. 5756. This time multiplying with actual, not with the budgeted. Remember that. 17 times 5756. That gives me 97,852. 97,852. All right, the next one we have here, calculate the amount of under or over absorbs. So we need to ask ourselves, did we absorb more or less? Let's look at the window first. So our overhead absorbed for the window is 128, this one, 128,438. This is my overhead absorbed. And the actual overhead for the window is 129,325. We need to find the difference. How much is the difference? So 129,325 minus 128,438, and the difference is 887. And the next question is it under absorbed or it is over absorbed? Very careful with that. I always look at myself. If you look at here, 128, this is the one I absorbed. So I absorbed less and actual is more. That's the actual result. So if the actual is more and I absorb less, so it is under absorbed. So it said 887 under absorbed. Do not look at from the other point of view like, oh, actual is more, that means it is the over absorbed. No, it is under. You always ask yourself, did I absorb more or did I absorb less? So you have to get your answer by asking yourself. So it is under absorbed. The next one, we do the same way for the door. So the door, I have 9785 2, and we have actual 96,780. So the difference is 1072, and this is over absorbed because I absorb more. I absorb 97, but actual is 96. So I absorb more. So that's how we're going to calculate over and under absorb. This question is a very common in the exam. So make sure you revise well. So if this comes in the exam, you can do it very well. All right, so let's move to our next question.